Hello, everybody. My name is Kelly Mabel, and you have found your way to what I call the Kind Mind community. And I'm so happy to have you all in the room. I have new faces, and I have familiar faces, and I have faces that are coming back. And that's what this room is about. It's a drop in center of the heart. It's a place where people come together to listen to the messages that began on a little island not so far from me here called Salt Spring Island in Vancouver, through the message of Sydney Banks and what we would call the three principles. And so today is not unlike all the rest of this year. I don't know what number conversation we're on. I'd have to count, but we're coming to the end of the year, so 52 is coming up pretty quickly. But I'd like to say that this particular conversation came with a beautiful, flowing, serendipitous energy. And it began when I made the decision to find my way to another beautiful room called Heartfelt Presence, which is a place where we can be supported with this message and understanding. And I landed in that room, and it was my very first time. And this beautiful soul named Theo Tomlinson, and I didn't know that at the time because it was a first name basis in that room, or that's what I thought. And Theo was serenading us, the room, with a beautiful song. And what my understanding was to go in and to meet the people and to have a conversation. And I was so awestruck by that. I had nothing to say. So I sat back and listened and heard someone unfold their beautiful energy in a room. And that's how I met Theo. But what came after was auspicious and timely and also serendipitous. And that was that his father, unbeknownst to me at the time, sent me a little note. And that was Mick Tomlinson. And he said he had a message and a beautiful story that he'd like to share with the world. And at that time, I didn't know that he was talking about the Theo that I had met. At that time, he just said, "My son Theo." And I thought, what are the chances of it being that it was the Theo that I had heard listening to serenading us with his beautiful music and song? And sure enough, it was. And so through a very short but beautiful collaboration of the minds, the three of us got together and we unfolded what's going to be this moment, this time. And it was in my heart that this conversation be part of the series this year. And so this is an additional conversation to the schedule that we normally have. As you know, it's been on Tuesdays, and we will still have a beautiful conversation tomorrow. But this one held so much special feeling that I couldn't deny that it was meant to be, and it was meant to be today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to either of you, whichever way you would like to begin this conversation. And we'll do it together. You can guide me when it's time to stop, and you can tell me maybe what you want to do thereafter. And maybe we'll have some special stuff happening, and we'll just let the room unfold for itself. So welcome, everybody, and welcome Mick Tomlinson and his son, Theo.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And it's such a treat to be, it's a treat and an honor to be allowed to speak in this community. Theo,
thank you.
How should we start?
Well, that's a really beautiful introduction, and I'm very pleased to be here with everybody and see so many familiar faces, and some from recent connections and some longer, and to know that there'll be many more tuning in. And so that's really my my hope is that we can tune into this space and time for that we might touch and speak to something universal, something common interests and common heart. And I suppose what brings me here today is a journey of specifically the last 7-8 years of our lives, which found me in a time of crisis, spiritually and mentally and existentially, and led to several or 3 admissions to psychiatric hospitals, and also part of that journey has been meeting, as is a lovely word I've been hearing recently. People use meeting, this 3 principles, and how that has taken shape. All of it together. So that's I guess the storyboard, and there's so much that's going to come out of it, and I feel like it's a conversation that's really just, this is the beginning of, and will be complete in itself, but it's a conversation I feel that I'm going to be having for times to come. And so I'm really happy that you're all here to share in, at this beginning for me, and as I am setting out on an adventure of becoming a 3 principles practitioner. Over to you, Dad.
Wow, that was a very nice way to start. Thank you. For me, we are, I mean, in this room, we are getting the benefit, if you like, of where Theo is today. And to me, the reason I reached out to Kelly to ask if we could do this is because I have been in awe, just awestruck at the change in Theo in the last, certainly, well, in the last year especially, mostly from somewhere around January, February. There has been a shift in Theo that has just got deeper and deeper as I have seen him become rooted in his true self. And what comes out of that is just, to me, beautiful, really beautiful. And I know that many people in the Heartfelt Presence room, where both Theo and I host the room every now and again, or several times a week, I know that people have been really touched, as Kelly was, not just by Theo's musicianship, but also by the way he shares his own story and holds space for people. and the wisdom that comes through him. So I'd just like to say a little bit about the chronology of events, if you like, just to give you a sense of what happened 8 years ago. I had come across the three principles for myself in the end of 2012 and had seen something that really shifted my experience of life. It really shifted my sense of myself and how I wasn't at the effect of my circumstances. I wasn't at the effect of my health, because I have a particular health challenge. I wasn't at the effect of my struggles to earn money and so on. Everything was going on inside my own psychology. And I got very excited about this and saw some very some huge things which helped me. And in my relationship with Theo, at that time, he was having what I thought was a difficult relationship with a girlfriend. And I would attempt to give my best to share what I saw about thought and thinking and how we are creating our own experience. And during that time, there was something which helped Theo, I believe, and also I was aware that I was sharing from an intellectual place. So, and the thing about this understanding is that if we just share from an intellectual place, we might hear something, or we might hear something that's useful, but it doesn't kind of land. So I knew something had landed for me, but in terms of my wanting it for Theo, there wasn't anywhere it really went. And so he did start reading up for himself. He did start looking into it for himself. And Theo, you'll have to tell me about what exactly happened. But at some point, I was phoned up by his mum, Deanie, who is in the room today. And Theo was going through a crisis. He was going through, I think the police had been called, and I think his girlfriend was in fear for how he was. And at some point that evening, he was taken away. He was forcibly taken away and put in a cell. And that was the beginning of what I would say is an extreme time, obviously for Theo, but also for those who are around him, his mother, his girlfriend, and myself, and his brother or brothers. And I felt, so when at that point, after he became hospitalized, so he was taken, and in England, in the UK, it's called sectioning, when you are forcibly hospitalized.
Detained, yeah.
And also medicated probably against your will at the time. I can't remember what Theo's version of that would be. And one of the things that was just amazing to me was that I had started having coaching from a 3 Principles coach, and he was talking to me about wisdom. He was talking to me about the wisdom that we all have, and that it was a feeling. It was a feeling that is inside us. And as soon as I could, well, as soon as it was appropriate, I went to the UK to visit Theo in hospital and spent a couple of weeks going backwards and forwards from Bristol to Salisbury, where he was hospitalized. And at the time, because of the way everyone in the family, everyone in my family, everyone who I spoke to was reacting, what I was hearing was there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear for the situation. There was a lot of fear for Theo. There was a lot of fear about what might happen in the future. And there was a lot of fear about what was the best thing to do. And all I could navigate by was this sense of wisdom that my Martin Yarnland, who is a lovely man, he was guiding me to listen to my own wisdom, and to also to listen to it in other people. And I could, and that during that time, it was a very intense time. That was my guide. My guide was, does this feel right? Does this feel like it's coming from wisdom, or does it feel like it's coming from fear? And I would say, when I came back from the UK, I would say that it was probably the time I've been most present in my life up until that point. It was moment to moment to moment to moment I was listening to what needed to be done in this moment, both for me personally and also as I responded to other people. And I came back from the UK from what could have been a really exhausting journey. And I came back feeling like, well, I'd just been to visit a friend who was in a very difficult situation. And over to you, friend.
Well, there's a lovely feeling in that. Which somehow is, I think, the direction I started to look, which made the difference. That's my sense, is that because if I'm quite honest, I don't really know what it is that's made the difference now. I just know that there is one, and that it's moving me enough to want to share it. And yet I kind of know, I have a sense of the direction in which I can look and point others towards, you know, and that, like you were saying, I think for the first 6 years or so of my looking deeper into the principles, it was a fairly intellectual pursuit. Kind of unbeknownst to myself. I didn't know that until I saw it deeper. I didn't know that I was looking intellectually. That was well disguised as spiritual, as beyond, looking beyond the form. And what I do know looking back is that from where I sit now is that I was always safe, and I was always kind of held, and I had a sense of that at times, and that was, you know, supported by some of the insights that I had, some of the support that I'd had, and just any old human connection felt with love, you know, touches that truth, I think. And because, yeah, really on the one hand, nothing's changed. That since before the time I was, you know, became unwell and I went through all that, and during that and after, until now, on one hand, nothing's changed. I'm the same person. The world is the same person, just as anyone else is. You know, the same potential, running in the same way, and so that to me spells out hope for everybody, and for any, you know, particularly for anyone also close to, you know, somebody suffering, going through a crisis to any degree. Yeah, that's the beauty of what we're looking at, I think, is that you don't have to get it to have a little faith and a little, you know, flavor of what supports and what works for everybody, what carries us through life.
As much as I would love to get it. And as much as I wanted you to get it. I mean, for me, that's what's been really interesting about the journey, is that I would hear I would hear something on a webinar, a Three Principles webinar or something, or read something, and I think, oh, I wish Theo could get that. I wish Theo could get that. He would really, that would really benefit him. And if only he would get that, and kind of implying that I got it, but I probably, it was probably way over my head anyway. And for me, this my part has always been just listening for what being struck by things that help me, but I want them to help other people. I want them to help, especially Theo, because at the time I saw that, I saw that you were the one in need. And there's something else you said, Theo, about being safe all the way, being the same all the way through. And that's what's so extraordinary, is that, I haven't changed and you haven't changed. And yet our experiences are completely different. And that's kind of, for me, that's a bit where the magic is. There were times when people in my family, people in your family would regard the diagnosis that you were given as being a condition that you had, a condition that was for life. And whether it was genes or whether it was history that got you there, or chemical, or whether it was too much of this or that in your childhood, people saw a condition, and the medical profession was, is very keen to keep that view. And I think, I feel really fortunate that I had come to understand something, a little bit of the Three Principles before your first episode, because I didn't buy into that. I didn't buy into that being true, that being a truth. And I'd heard enough stories from Bill Pettit, who's a psychiatrist in this field, of amazing transformations and I see there's Jan is on here, and Jan and I have had many conversations about wishing that Bill would just talk to our sons and they'd be cured. And for me, that there was always that possibility. There was always that possibility that Theo could be cured. You know, because it's interesting. It's interesting we're here today, you know, in speaking in this way, and it's like it's very difficult to give us to give a sense of where it was, if you like.
Unless I do a little play and act. Could be fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll put you through that.
You know, I mean, there was a time, I think it was possibly the second hospitalization or the third one, I'm not sure, where Theo and I were or my understanding of the conversation, I think Theo was in crisis at the time, and Theo had got it in his head that his past relationships with men in particular, myself as a key member of the male species, being at fault. And I don't know if it was that time, but I think at that time I made the fatal mistake of talking about Theo being delusional. And there was a huge reaction. And Theo put down the phone on me, and I came across a letter that I'd written in my journal to Theo the next day, and I don't know if I actually sent it to you, Theo. I don't know if I sent it to you, but do you mind if I read it?
Please.
It's if I can find it.
And whilst it's still just there on my mind, just to acknowledge the subject of diagnosis, in case it gets lost in the conversation, that just the way that you were talking about that then just really awoke an excited feeling in me. I suppose because I am now aware of the obvious truth, the obvious common sense that there is no, condition that can be attached to a person, that there is, I kind of, again, I understood that intellectually in the past, and I always had a sense that, it's just a label. It's not, not really who I am, or it's, it's just a description of symptoms or whatever, but that could, serve a purpose or be useful. And not to say that it doesn't have a place, but in terms of recognizing the reality of things, it's just not the case that somebody can be have a disorder is so liberating, to the point where literally, as I was just saying, there's a physical sensation, my cells are dancing because of a feeling of truth, and that's the feeling that it's
just to add to that, about the diagnosis. At the time, I remember when you were diagnosed, it was helpful to you.
Yeah.
But there seemed to be something about knowing that I have, I've got this problem, and giving, a medical person giving it a label at that time, because I think your mind was such a scary place. To someone say, oh, you've got this, it looked like it was helpful at the time. And then I could also see that if that becomes an identity, then it's if you had taken it on as an identity or kept it as an identity, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Yeah, it's the territory we're, in the environment that we're currently hanging out in at this point in time, in this state of civilization, that it comes to circumstances come to a certain place, and it can call for those measures. There's good reasons that they're there, and it's important to distinguish that understanding the three principles doesn't mean to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That perhaps one day, when the world is awake enough and has understood enough to to really change psychology and psychiatry, I think we may be dealing with things very differently, and I've got more hope for that now than ever. But it's kind of just an unfortunate necessity that some of us have to go through because of the current climate, that and it can lead to worst case death. People lose their lives through just the fact that our system, our culture and society doesn't yet fully understand mental health and what they call mental illness. And yet that system is doing its dearest, to try to solve it, and it's not got the right background and understanding to create the right tools, and so we're fumbling around with these tools and ending up making things worse for people. And but I suppose I've been fortunate enough to have the right support and care and love around me, and the beauty of this understanding falling into our laps, being a godsend, that I was able to make the most of the services available. So I just want to point that out, that there was no rejection of services and you know, and all that in my journey, that it was really that the principles, and I think the support that I had, and my dad, you know, being in on it, that helped me to best use all of that, and to you know, I'm now coming off and tapering off my medication for bipolar, which is great, but I don't need to. It's like I could be on it for longer. I could come off it, and I'm only coming off it now because I felt guided, I felt ready to, and that's amazing. But the lithium has also been, you know, and the other, you know, antipsychotics that I'd, you know, gained treatment from, served a purpose, you know, some of them less desirable side effects than others, and but I don't regret any part of that journey, and I you know, yeah.
So this is that letter that I wrote to you in a place where we were both angry with each other. Dear Theo, I'm sorry for not being there right now. I'm sorry for not having been there in the way that many fathers are. I'm sorry that I moved to a different country. I'm sorry that you feel that your life has been shaped so heavily by my absence. Right now, I feel so sad that I've lost you, lost the sense of connection and understanding that I thought was there. But maybe it never really was there. Just both of us making up some story about the other, lost in our own version of the other. I don't know what to say to reconnect, but perhaps that's just to ease my own pain. I cannot imagine the pain that you have been through in the last few weeks, especially yesterday. My thinking mind is trying to argue that you have the story wrong, that you've made up a concoction out of elements that could be true and woven them into a fabricated cloth that you're now wearing proudly, as if it's going to change your life, or maybe even save your life, or save you from harming yourself or others. That may be a good thing right now, that you have something to hang on to. But at the same time, I'm concerned that you're hanging on to a delicate and illusory thread that is not going to support you, like you believe right now. I'm sorry for attempting to defend my point of view. It has clearly been upsetting and caused you a degree of agitation. I can feel the selfish hope that you won't always blame me. I must be one of thousands of parents tormenting themselves with the blame as their children go through horrendous breakdowns. Deanie suggests the only thing I can do at the moment is to hold you in light and send healing. I know she's right, but I have to find that place inside me that can authentically do that. The anger that's still lingering has no place there. Is it my job to try to quell the anger or dispel it? I know somewhere that if I leave it alone, it will be washed away by itself. Enough for now. What really struck me when I came across that letter was how we have reconnected since well, this year, basically. This year feels like we've really connected. In a way that there is such mutual respect. Did I ever send you that? Does it ring a bell?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
But I think you shared the message in other ways.
Do you want to open it up for questions?
Yeah, I was about to say I'd be interested to hear what anybody else would like to hear about, and or comment on, or reflect on.
So if you haven't used Zoom before, down where there's at the bottom of the screen, there's a reactions, and you can raise your hand, or you can just unmute yourself as well. Rick, please.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Mick and Theo. What a wonderful story and transformation. And I've seen it in Theo too, because Theo visited me a few times in the heartfelt room, and we've interacted since, and it just seems, so much lightness in him. It just keeps evolving and growing, and what you said, Mick, what really struck me is, and you've used the word several times, and it's connection. And I just see so much of what we really want out of life is to be connected to, and the whole word of grounding is part of that, right? And even in electrical terms, you don't get the good sparks unless you're well grounded, and it's just that connection that I think we all really, really, but we get so lost in it, and all we want to do is just correct. It's like, I want to fix that. I want to do, it's like, but we really just want to connect. And I love your story, because it is all about connection. It's all about the love which binds us all. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Ellen.
Awesome that you've brought that forward out of that, Rick. So thank you, because before I think was before I had this recent significant shift in my understanding of the principles, when I would talk about and share my story, I would use the word connection, and that was the thing that I could begin to put a finger on as one of the main things that helped me through. It's
Thanks, Rick, for that. Mick, did you want to say anything to Rick before we move on?
Just no, it was just no. Again, thank you for bringing it forward. It's just the reading that letter with just seeing the difference between when you feel like you've lost, when I feel like I've lost touch with my son, you know, that's where the pain is. It's and in the in the times where Theo was most in crisis, it has a feeling of being taken over, and you know, historically there's that sense of possession, that you've been possessed by someone else, and you know, regardless what's going on in the system, that the feeling of connection with who you know is where the pain is, because it's like, you know, and also where the fear is. You know, the fear is like, I'm seeing someone who shouldn't be there, and I've lost who I thought was there. And I think if we, you know, like Rick's saying about the fixing, if we steer clear of the fixing and just go with the feeling of what is it we want to reconnect with, that's where the juice is. Yeah.
Love that. Ellen, please. Thanks, Mick.
Hello.
Hi, Ellen.
Your sharing of your story, each of you, is such a gift to the world, way beyond this community. Mick, I loved your letter. But Theo, what you said, that you received it without the letter, was gorgeous. Really touched me. And I'm just kind of curious, Theo, what was your experience of your dad's intellectual sharing, or whatever? I don't think it was only intellectual, because I just, for the journey that I've known Mick, but I'm just wondering, you know, what was your experience, or the range? You know, I know you didn't have one experience in a box, but what was your range of experiences of Mick sharing, you know, early on?
That's thank you for the question, Ellen. Really touching reflection, and thank you. I'm digging now, digging back.
And no pressure if there's nothing present, you know, I just.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I suppose I hadn't given it a lot of thought yet. At least in this moment, it looks that way. But I remember I do remember some contrasting times between times when I might have hung up the phone, or not wanted to hear him, or you know, been frustrated or angry or upset. Yeah, even if what he was, the things he was saying might have made sense to me on some level, you know, intellectually they added up. And times when I felt such warmth and such reassurance and you know, holding and such a loving, accepting embrace.
Thank you. And the thing I just want to complete right now with is the depth of joy that I see in you today is just deeply moving me. I've seen a lot of joy in you as our paths have crossed briefly, intermittently, but the depth that's present today is beautiful.
It's those dancing cells.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course it is. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Hello, you two. Welcome. Go ahead, Jim.
I want to thank you folks for sharing, exposing yourselves, connecting in front of us, sharing your souls. Very beautiful, very touching, very real, very honest, very deep, very, very much loaded with love. Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
Great
Thank
to have
you for your,
here.
and thank you for your support.
Pamela.
Hi there. Thank you for that. I share a similar story with a not so happy outcome. And the two things that really inspired me in your story were, one, that connection, and I think particularly when it's a young man with the father, is in my opinion, is almost the functional reason that the crisis happens. And that, you know, God and the universe and the essential nature of the three principles is that everything has a purpose. I am part of a mental health recovery community, and something I believe I've learned is that we can to look not for the problem, but for the opportunity. And that's the message I try to carry with my group. And many people ask me, what should I do? What can I do to change what's happening with my loved one? And my response is to do your own work and come to it in a cooperative and loving way and see it as an opportunity. So I thank you. I believe that's part of your message, and that you're doing it together. And I guess if I had a question, it would be for Mick, that in the mental health recovery communities, that I seem to find that more often, on a very large difference in percentage, it's the mothers who are trying to come alongside and support the recovery, and the fathers, many fathers don't. I'm wondering if you have any words of wisdom that might encourage more fathers to come forward.
Right. I'm not sure I could speak to fathers generally, but no, I thank you for your, well, thank you for what you're doing. You know, and I love the, you know, the what you're pointing to of just looking for opportunity. And I think in what I was attempting to do through the time with Theo is firstly to listen to where he was, to hear him out, despite my whatever thinking I had about the rights or wrongs of what he was what I was hearing, to listen. And one of the things that was like a mission almost, was that in this community we hear, and certainly through someone like Bill Pettit, Dr. Bill Pettit is saying the power is seeing the health in the person going through crisis. And that was a bit like my mission, is that I was looking for that and didn't feel that I was able to do it to the degree that I knew was possible. So it wasn't that I saw the health in Theo, but that's where I wanted to look. I wanted to find it. I wanted to be as good as Bill Pettit at that. You know, if Bill can't go to Theo, then, you know, I guess it's down to other ways. And one of the first big insights I had while on a three principles training with we were being taught how to deep listen, and I brought the topic of, and me and Theo were going through something at the time, and I think this was a kind of like a year into his crisis. I brought the topic of how can I see his health more, and as I was in this exercise, I didn't get an answer to that, but what I really did see very clearly was the amount of thinking that I had of who I thought Theo was. Past thinking. So that was what was on my windscreen, if you like, that I was looking at. I was looking through the history of who I thought Theo was. And what, and I think that was, you know, it was profoundly important to me to see that that was happening, and to see that Theo was nothing to do with that. He was nothing to do with my story of who Theo was. And what's happened this year is that I haven't had to know the, or look for the health in him, because he's just kind of like, he's just kind of shone as Ellen was saying, you know, I mean, the joy that has been just bubbling out of him has just been brewing. I don't know if that speaks to your question at all. I'm sorry, but that's what comes to mind. It's just if there are fathers listening to this recording, then, you know, I would just wish for everyone to see the person going through crisis as a soul that is, you know, living moment to moment, and not a historical bundle of personality. And if we can see them fresh, in the moment, and whatever is being thrown at us, you know, I think a lot of it is just us being able to handle and not make meaning of what. I mean, one of the things that Theo was doing in the midst of his crisis was making meaning of his thoughts, or making meaning of his circumstances. And I saw it as very much one of my jobs was to just stay with, we don't have to make meaning of things. This is just how things are in the moment. This is just this moment. We don't have to make meaning.
Was that helpful, Pamela?
Yes, thank you.
Susan.
Do you want to add something, Theo?
Yeah, just also that health that you speaking to, that, you know, you were intending to see, or encouraging people to look to, that it's it's not only present in the form of appearances of that person and the way that they're operating, that it's also in the world that they're in, the circumstances, the situation, the people around, everything that is health present. So that, yeah, that everything is that's present for any person is perfect for them, and we are surrounded by exactly what we need in any moment. And so seeing that health is like is where we, you know, is a game changer. And knowing that whatever support is there, whoever is involved, is going to be right. And I think it's very natural for mothers to be more involved to be naturally more caring in that way. That's an aside, you know. That's just a and I think as somebody in, you know, in the middle of that crisis, I think it's natural to reach out to and to seek support from mother, you know, from feminine energy, and to feel held by that. And that's largely where I think I got my, you know, comfort. But healing happens, yeah, from within for each individual. And when we trust and see the health that is, and know it, you know, for each of ourselves, then all we really have to do is sit back and Susan.
Oh, you guys, this has been amazing. Oh, thank you so much. Mick, I'm going to have to listen to this recording again, because what you had just talked about, response to Pamela's questions, just blown me away. So thank you. I can't remember the words, but I was just like awestruck. So, and we have a son who's in difficulty, and I just keep sending positive, loving energy to him, and just almost in a formal sense, like Theo had mentioned at one point, just you know, sending the love and warmth that I can send him. But then the mom in me, the fix-it in me, it's like, oh, there must be some magic little phrase I could send him, or there must be something. So I thought, oh, I know, I'll ask Theo. Theo will be able to tell me what are some magic words that could fix my son. But I realized that I just have to let him find that in his own way, on his own path. So unless you actually do have some magic words you could tell me. But thank you both very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm thinking you guys didn't even need a hostess. You could just run the whole room yourselves. Just such a beautiful thing. I'm just sitting back. But I'm sitting back in a beautiful feeling, a really beautiful feeling. And I had many things that pulled me into that. One of the things that came to me was fixing equals what I fear I can't handle. You know, getting in there and trying to fix it is what I really feel. I can't handle whatever's going on, so I think I need to fix it. And then another thing I heard was, you know, you both spoke about a word, cure. And, you know, it doesn't matter really the words that I'm pointed to, but when I hear the word cure, I think well-being, answers, insights, you know. But what I noticed was, where do you see cure? Where does that land for you? And when you think of that word and what happened for both of you, you seeing it, Mick, as the father, and Theo, you living it, what do you see? Because I have my own perspective, but before I share it, I wanted to hear from both of you. You know, what really transpired, or what would you tell this audience that transpired for you?
Great question. Thank you.
Any thoughts, mate?
Yeah, just no, I listened to something, I can't remember where it was, but it was quite recently. I heard someone say the difference between coming across the three principles understanding and other psychological approaches. And I think it was Aaron Turner on the 3PGC thing was saying that the three principles look for a cure, as opposed to other approaches look to, I can't remember exactly what he said, but looking to ameliorate, kind of prop up or do the best they can. And I'd never really thought about the three principles in terms of cure in that way until then. And yet, what I have seen, my perspective of Theo is it's cured. And to me, what that means, what cure means in that sense, is that he's still going to have his thoughts, he's still going to have his ups and downs, he's still going to have his but that's like all of us. It's something to do with him entering entering the place he was before the crisis. Something about becoming, seeing his normality. He doesn't feel special any more than the rest of us.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I
don't know. There's some. I don't know. There's some. Yeah.
Yeah. What say you, Theo?
Well, I suppose there's so many ways to answer that. But what I'm sitting with now is that it, and this is partly because of words reverberating in my head that I've been told and I've heard Sid say 100 times. But also it fits with a sense that I have, that it rings true for me, that that it's the it's the simplest answer. It's like, I think I've got it simpler or simple, you think you've got it simply, and then it's like, go simpler than that. You can go simpler than that.
Love it.
And it really, it really is that simple. And so that's what I mean when I say there's loads of different ways I can approach it. But one simple answer to me at this moment is just seeing through what's not, seeing through what isn't, coming to know, to get a sense of what is, a closer idea, a better idea of what is, by getting over the thoughts of what I think I know. and that there is infinite freedom to be found in not knowing. Because if I don't know it, if I don't know if I don't know suffering, it's not a thing, right? And I feel I'm getting a little bit complicated there as I started
Actually,
to go.
I'm going to disagree. That last statement you just said was simply profound there. You know, really profound. What I had written was, if I use the word cure or well-being or awareness or answers, whatever, is seeing it for yourself.
Mm.
You know, going back to that place where when I'm curious and I let go of my current reality of knowing, I think I know my son, my daughter, my husband, my partner, and I look at them in this moment, then there's something I can see right there, right in that moment, that I might not have seen yesterday or even an hour before. So how do we feel, boys? How do we feel? Where would you like to go from here? We've got a few minutes left for anybody who would like to. Yes, Sander, please. Great to see you.
Hi. I'm gonna try and speak here without getting emotional. I'm not an emotional guy, you know. I am really. Thank you. Both. I'm thinking about my daughter. Hope. The relationship I have with my daughter is kind of good. It's good enough, but we don't know each other very well. And I think I'm laughing nervously because I want to cry. I don't want to speak. Listening tonight, I think I've thought that the way it is now is the way it was always going to be. After what I've witnessed here tonight, I don't see it that way. She said she was going to come and visit at the end of January. So I'm going to be watching this space, even if anybody else isn't. So thank you both.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Xander. And thank you for just, sitting in that place of vulnerability and
Thank
and
you,
as you,
Xander.
as you were saying it, there have been, in I think both for me and Theo, as we've been preparing for this talk, in as much as we could prepare for it, there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of tears, and sometimes those tears have been exactly the same feeling that you're feeling, of just seeing the hope that I never thought was there, or that I didn't realize I didn't realize I didn't believe that change was possible. I didn't realize that. I kind of had the hope, but it was a little bit of not a real hope, if you know what I mean. So no, I am so touched that you feel the real hope.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to be a part of this tonight. And I know that it's going to keep rippling out, and I just wish everybody a really gentle and peaceful and warm and joyful onward journey. And thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, Xander. We've come to that time, which in this particular case, as in every week, there's times when I just don't want these conversations to end. But with the deepest gratitude and grace in my heart, I thank you for sharing as vulnerably as you have to this group and to everyone in the world that's going to hear this message. And I want to say, if anybody here has heard something, they've seen something, they've had a feeling or an insight for themselves, please tell them that we're here. Please tell them that this is a room that these messages are for the spreading. And there's no requirement necessary, as these two have told you. They've just come with their wisdom. And I am deeply grateful for that. So, thank you, my friends. Thank you, everybody who's shown up and shared and questioned and had a different thinking or thoughts. And thank you, Mick and Theo. It was beyond my honor to be here today. And I will save the chat, and I will send everything, and things will be posted so that this message can continue to ripple. And for those of you who are new here, please keep coming back. And for those of you who I know well, much love until next time, which is tomorrow, this week. Go with love and light, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Kelly.
just thank you so much, Kelly, and it's a real honor to be on this. And I've just put Theo as well. We've just put our emails in the chat.
Yeah, beautiful.
If anyone has any questions for either of us.
Beautiful. And this video,
great.
this recording will be shareable to everybody who'd like to send it out in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.